Milad Sullivan for Kimura.se, standing here with the legendary K1 fighter Ray Sefo. How you doing, sir?
Good, sir. Thank you.
You're famous for two things. One being the great K1 fighter that you are. The other one is being the stand-up coach for Extreme Couture, working a lot with Vitor Belfort. Tell me a little bit about his training camp this time around.
His training camp has been great. You know, he's the type of guy that I got to try and slow down. He loves to work. He loves to work hard. And so one of the biggest things, you know, and it's a good thing, but it's also not so much a good thing. So, and the trainer always, you know, always wants to try and push your fighter. With him, I don't need to push him. I need him to slow down a little bit. So, you know, the training camp has been great. He's been amazing in training camp. He's had some great jiu-jitsu training, wrestling, kickboxing, boxing, everything. So you know, training's been great. He's ready.
You know, Anderson Silva is, of course, famous for many things. One is his ability for keeping the distance, like knowing exactly where he is, knowing exactly where his opponent is, inside, outside the pocket. That was very evident in the Forrest Griffin fight. Tell us what you guys specifically been working on with Vitor.
Exactly that. Finding his distance, finding his range, knowing where he's at. Exactly the same thing. You know, working on being able to counter, be able to attack. You know, looking out for what he's going to do, looking for feints and so on. So, you know, I think we've covered every basis in terms of the stand-up side and in terms of the ground. I mean, the guy's submitting off his back, so, you know, which is something that he hasn't done for a while. And so, you know, I truly believe he's ready to be the new champion.
I got to touch on the subject. I know you're very occupied. Vitor just finished up his media workouts. There was Shawn Thompkins. We got to talk about this. He was a former head coach over at Extreme Couture. He went out and said some detrimental things about Vitor. Silly. Well, that's okay. I'm not an insider. I can't use those words. But he went out and said a couple of things questioning Vitor's loyalty. Let's talk a little bit about that and how that affected Vitor.
It doesn't affect Vitor at all because at the end of the day, Shawn Thompkins. I thought he was a friend too, and at the end of the day, he. Said things that he shouldn't have said, which was silly. And let's set the record straight. Bottom line is, before Vitor came to the United States, he didn't call Shawn Thompkins and say, listen, I want to come train. He called Randy Couture and asked if he could come and train at Extreme Couture. Randy's response was, yeah, you know, come and train here. Extreme Couture is your home. So that's what happened. When he got to Extreme Couture, Ron Frazier was the head coach at the time. And he worked with Ron Frazier for the first week. Within that time, I'm told that Shawn Thompkins was then hired as the head coach. So then that's how they worked together. He never, you know, he never hired Shawn Thompkins to be to be his trainer or his coach or whatever. Shawn Thompkins was the head coach at Extreme Couture at the time. So therefore, Vitor worked with him. And you know, at that time, they had good things and it was working. But you know what? Just like any other fighter. My career, I've had to change, you know, from my first coach ever to, you know, having myself and my own team. Muhammad Ali did the same. Joe Frazier, Evander Holyfield. You name all the great boxers, all the great kickboxers. In terms of Peter Ertz, you know, Remy Bonyansky. I mean, you know, Andy Hook. We're talking something that happens. It's got nothing to do with loyalty. It's to do with finding the people that makes you tick and the people that makes you work.
It's the way you evolve?
Exactly. That's how you evolve in the game. You look at MMA when it first started to where it is today. I mean, like, it's like night and day, correct? So it's the same with training. It's the same with, if your trainer can't provide or make you tick no more, you know, if you want to be world champion, you have to make changes. Unfortunately, Tompkins don't understand that. And so he went out and said some silly things, in my opinion, that he shouldn't have said. And the bottom line is, he then was somewhat, you know, to the point where he, I mean, I know Randy didn't tell him to leave. He left on his own on his own. But at the end of the day, he had to leave somewhat. So when Vitor came back this year, Vitor had no idea what was going on. Had no idea that Shawn Thompkins had left and gone to tap out. So when he came back, he worked 3 days at Extreme Couture and 3 days at tap out. And the only reason why he did that was because he was still loyal to Shawn Thompkins. But it got to the point where he didn't want to be divided. And he didn't feel what it felt, he didn't feel what the homely feel that he felt at Extreme Couture. So he then sat down with Shawn Thompkins and said, listen, this is where I want to be. I want to be at Extreme Couture. This is where I started. This is where I called before I came to the States. I called Randy. This is where I'm at. So when he said that he's not loyal to nobody, well, that's such a false statement because he is loyal to where he is. And when he said he's training at 8 gyms, no. Extreme Couture is where he's trained from day one since he came to the U.S., and he's still there today.
The funny thing about this is after the media workouts, he told everybody to just have a moment, and he talked about respect, he talked about loyalty, he talked about how expensive UFC tickets are and how important it is for whether or not you root for him or you root for Anderson, that you come out and have a good time. So it's kind of peculiar that someone would call Vitor Belfort disloyal.
Exactly. This is what I don't understand. And some Tompkins, you know what you did was wrong. And the bottom line is Vitor is not only a nice guy, he's loyal. The thing I said to Vitor when he said to me to be his head coach, I said, listen, in 3 weeks into our training camp, if you feel I can't provide what you need to be champion, I need you to find somebody else. But I'm going to still be there to support you. Why? Because I know what it's like to be in the game. I've won 6 world titles in 6 different weight divisions. I know what it's like to be champion. I know what it takes to be champion. So if I couldn't provide that for Vitor, I'm his friend. And I don't care if he goes somewhere else, but I'm going to be there to support him 100%.
Ray,
and that's the bottom line.
I know you're very busy. We've got to talk a little bit about it. What's in the career of the legendary Ray Sefo? When will we see you in action again?
Well, right now I'm getting ready for a Strikeforce fight. Funny enough, it's
really
a week from today. From Saturday. It's been kind of tough because I have to focus on Vitor's camp, and then whatever time I have left, I focus. Then I put it in mind. So I'm fit. I'm ready to go. I'm fighting Valentine Overeem, who's a great fighter, who's been around.
Alistair's brother.
Correct, Alistair's brother, and. I don't underestimate the guy at all. I know it's going to be a tough fight, and I think it's going to be a 50-50 fight.
Kimura.se wishes you the best of luck. Thank you so much for being so honest. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Ray Sefo, ladies and gentlemen.
I want to say Stockholm is one of my favorite cities. I love Sweden. And thank you for all the love and support to the fans. God bless. Thank you.
Ray Sefo.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
That was great, man.
Thanks, man.